There comes a moment when longing is no longer necessary, not because the longing has been fulfilled, but because you've become the one who fulfills it. This is the gate we open now, not by effort, not by reaching, but by returning to the place where devotion has built something real. If you're here, you're ready to remember that structure is not separate from the sacred. It is the sacred revealed. Take a deep breath. This is the transmission of devotion encoded in form. If you're new here, and this is your best kept secret to success, I'm Prema Gurreri. It's a sacred listening field for soul-led leaders, sacred wealth architects, and those remembering their blueprint of embodied purpose. You're not here by accident. You are here because your inner structure is ready to speak. Before we enter the transmission, two ways to begin orienting yourself if you haven't already yet discovered your unique sacred wealth archetype. I invite you to take the Sacred Wealth Archetype Code Quiz and begin decoding the gifts already in live within you. And if you'd like to see the planetary structure of your own soul's design, get your free Vedic astrology birth chart using my free chart calculator. You'll find all those links below. This month, we're opening a new arc, one that reveals devotion, not as worship, but as form. We begin today with the first threshold, when spiritual longing becomes architectural alignment. Before we jump into our main content today, we'll do just a short Vedic astrology forecast so that you are aware of some of the energy you're already feeling because you're feeling all of it. And we'll also towards the end of our episode, we always do an embodiment practice. So whatever it is that really touches you, then it lands for you. There's a subtle but powerful shift unfolding right now in the cosmic field. On December 5th, Jupiter is retrograding already, but it is going to retrograde back from Cancer into Gemini. So it'll re-enter Gemini. It's a return to the mutable air sign of curiosity, communication, and spiritual intelligence. Jupiter went into this placement May of this year, 2025, and made its way just a little bit into Cancer, where it's exalted, and has now retrograding back into the sign of Gemini. It'll stay retrograde until March of 2026, and then it'll move forward eventually in June of 2026, coming back into Cancer. So we've just had a little bit of a sneak peek into the energy of Jupiter in Cancer. But this time, as it returns to Gemini, it's not conceptual. With Jupiter moving backward through Gemini, we're not invited to gather more teachings, but we're asked to integrate what we've already received. And meanwhile, Mercury, the ruler of Gemini, moves through the deep waters of Scorpio starting on December 6th. And it has been retrograding. It started in Scorpio, retrograded back into Libra, and then moving forward and going back to Scorpio now. So this is what happens when we retrograde. We get a sense of going back over a path we've already traversed and then going back over it again, now that we can see it from a different direction and we have more information. So, as it moves into Scorpio, it's a placement that whispers instead of shouts. It asks you to get honest about what has actually transformed you. Scorpio, the sign of transformation, where we turn grapes into wine. And this planetary dance is not really casual, it's a mirror. Jupiter asks, have you anchored your wisdom into words, communication, and into actions? Mercury in Scorpio asks, does your communication now carry the depth of your becoming? Let these cosmic movements affirm what you already feel. This is the time when longing matures into structure. If you want to see how these cosmic codes live inside your own soul structure, I invite you to get a soul blueprint reading with me or a sacred wealth code reading. Each one's a mirror of your true timing, your gifts, and your leadership design. This is not about strategies. It's about remembering who you are, what you carry, and how you build from truth. All right, let's settle in now to devotion, becoming structure. This is where we turn spiritual longing into embodied alignment. If you've ever felt a deep inner longing, one that doesn't go away with time or effort, you're not broken. You're not lost. You're actually tuning to the exact frequency that reveals your path. That longing isn't meant to be solved. It's meant to be structured. So, in today's episode, we'll explore how devotion is not just an emotion or practice. It's a living architecture that, when honored, becomes your embodied alignment. This is for you if you're sensing something sacred trying to land through you and you're ready to let it take form, not by striving, but by remembering. Let's walk through the structural keys that allow longing to become alignment. Longing is not a defect, it's a signal of design. And there's a certain ache that many on the spiritual path know well, a hunger for the divine, a longing for service, a desire to be seen, to be met and fulfilled. But the truth is, this longing is not a problem to solve. It's a signal of structural awakening. The ones who carry true longing are the ones who carry true architecture. The ache is not for more frequency, it's for form. And when longing is honored, not bypassed, not indulged, but refined, it becomes the gravity that draws coherence into being. I've seen this again and again in my clients, and I have felt it in myself. Longing isn't just absence, it's the ache of something true already written in your design, already written in your soul blueprint. One woman I was working with was guiding other women into sovereign divine femininity within their relationships, and she could articulate the path clearly for others, but there was a quiet ache in her own field. She deeply longed for the kind of partnership she was teaching. At first, that longing felt like a wound, like she wasn't fully living what she was offering. But over time, she stopped resisting the longing and started embodying the deeper structural coherence it was pointing to. And it was pointing to her embracing her own sovereignty, softening into her own feminine embodiment. And something shifted. She met her partner, not through effort, but by becoming the structure she had always longed for. And what emerged was not just the relationship she desired, but a deeper capacity to guide others into the same. Longing isn't failure. Longing is the portal to becoming, if you're willing to step into the becoming. Devotion matures into structure, not feeling. In the beginning, devotion feels like a wave. It's emotional, consuming, full of prayer and beauty. But eventually, if you keep walking, devotion stops asking for sensation. It starts asking for integration. It asks, will you rise before dawn when no one is watching? Will you keep the gate open even when no one enters? And will you build what is true even when it has not yet been seen? This is where devotion becomes visible, not energetic, not symbolic, architectural. Your calendar begins to reflect your values. Your finances reveal your embodiment. Your business or sacred work becomes less of a frequency and more of a structure through which that frequency is known. When longing begins to be honored, not chased or suppressed, but honored, it starts to shape you. It starts to become form, and that form becomes devotion. Structure in this sense is devotional. It's like sculpting clay. Not to create something ornamental, but to make space for something sacred to dwell. When you begin to keep your dates with the divine, the clay of your life starts to take temple shape. You're no longer running toward fulfillment. You're preparing a place for it to live. I was just speaking about this yesterday inside Sacred Wealth Mastery. We were talking about those quiet agreements we make with our higher self, with our soul. The morning meditation, even if it's short, lighting a candle at dusk instead of scrolling, saying no to the thing that would pull you out of your heart. These aren't rigid routines, they're devotional structures. Like walking barefoot to temple before the dawn, like bhakti, love expressed in form. When you shape your life around what you long for begins to arrive. Let yourself feel the sculptor's touch inside of you, not forcing, but remembering. Your longing is the water. Your daily structure is the clay. The temple is already forming. Structure is the mature form of spiritual longing. Longing, when left unmet, can become distortion. But longing, when walked with, matures into structure. The inner frequency of devotion asks to be housed. This is the beam you now stand upon. Longing asks, where is it? Alignment says, here I am. And devotion builds what is true, even before it is witnessed. When you reach this threshold, something extraordinary happens. Your longing doesn't disappear, it transmutes. It becomes a frequency field of remembrance. And those who carry the matching code arrive. Not as clients, not as followers, but as architects of the same reality. And they weren't summoned, they were remembered. Jupiter, who's our great teacher and sage in the sacred wealth archetype system, holds the mirror. Knowledge must become design. Jupiter, the guru planet, represents wisdom, generosity, and divine order. But when its teaching matures, Jupiter no longer gives answers. It reflects structure. When you revisit something Jupiter has already shown you, you're not meant to relearn it. You're meant to build with it, to be embodied with it, to live it. Jupiter's deeper function is not inspiration, it's embodiment. It holds the architecture of belief. And when it turns retrograde, symbolically or transit-wise, it is always a return to what you already know, asking, have you let this truth shape your design? This is not about astrology timing, it's universal law. And when wisdom is not integrated, it remains potential. When wisdom is structured, it becomes power. Just as Jupiter builds temples, your deepest teachings want to become blueprints, not just insights, but embedded structure. Over time, what you've taught becomes what you stand on. The blueprint becomes foundation. The foundation becomes invitation for others to walk with you. This is the arc of spiritual maturity. Not just knowing the truth, but becoming a structure that it holds. Speak now from what you have built. And there's a threshold in spiritual maturation where words must be earned. Mercury, the planet of communication, teaches this through contrast. When it enters deeper realms like the archetypal waters of Scorpio, it doesn't speak from performance, it speaks from penetration. It asks, are your words built on structure? Are you speaking from coherence or from the residue of desire? This is not a time to speak from longing. It's a time to speak from what has been lived. Words that emerge from structure carry resonance. They calibrate the field, not by volume, but by integrity. This is the true voice of devotion, not pleading, not proving, but embodying. You are not here to chase. You are not here to seek. You are here to become the vessel that remembers. What I longed for, I now build. What I build, I now become. And what I become, I now offer. Devotion is not something you do. It's what your structure now reveals. If you feel this transmission in your bones, if you know that your longing has always been a map back to structure, and if you're ready to walk as the vessel, not the seeker, then you may already be called into sacred wealth mastery. It's not a course, it's not a strategy, it's a crystalline field of structural remembrance for leaders, creators, sacred wealth architects who are done performing and ready to embody. And inside, you'll receive a soul blueprint reading to clarify your design, access to a full sacred wealth mastery vault, your personal field role, breath practices, codes to stabilize, temple calls, live coherence calls, live coherence circles, more. You'll know if this is yours, and if it is, the structure is already waiting for you. And the link is in the show notes or in the description. We are going to do a Sacred Wealth Oracle card reading. Just reaching for my deck here. From the Sacred Wealth Code Oracle deck, which is available on my website, also on Amazon as well. All the links are below. And in the Sacred Wealth Code, there are three archetypes for each planet, depending on where it's placed, and one for the north, one for the south node of the moon. And we will ask a couple of archetypes to come forward to support our transmission today. Just shuffling this deck for a moment. And if you have a question or something that's really come up for you, go ahead and hold that in your heart and let's see what comes through with the oracle cards. So our first card that comes through is one of Saturn's cards, the great organizer. Everything has its rightful place. Now, Saturn, the organizer, steps into the room to bring in structure. Wherever Saturn is, it is bringing in structure, and it is bringing in devotional structure and reminding us that we all have a personal devotional structure that allows us to know more of ourselves. See, Saturn is one of the most sensitive and most spiritual planets. It's also the planet of truth or consequences. It's known as the Satgraha. It wants us to know what is true and to live by what is true. And it's very much connected to a path of devotion. But devotion is devotion to the truth. So Saturn reminds us that everything has its rightful place and what needs to be rearranged in your life so that you are truly on your devotional path. And the teacher steps into the room, which we talked about already, which is Jupiter. To know is to grow is the mantra here. Jupiter is all about expansion, knowledge, wisdom. And there comes a point where that must come down to the ground and must be lived and embodied, because Jupiter is not a head without a body. And in fact, Ganesh, the elephant, is one of the uh, native archetypes, I want to say, of Jupiter, and is very much an embodied. This teacher is reminding us that there is a true path for each one of us to walk, and what it is that we are longing for is because you're sensing. It's like sensing it in the dark, maybe, but you're sensing that path is right in front of you. And Jupiter is reminding you that you only need to know what the next step is and to take it. We're going to do our embodiment practice because it's important, ever so important, to take that knowledge down into our bodies. Whatever's landed for you, just trust that this short practice will help it integrate to land so that you can walk forward more clearly. So we'll use this short practice to anchor this teaching today inside of your field. Sit down if you can, close your eyes. If you can't, no worries. Allow your spine to align. Let your body settle and breathe deep. Bring awareness to your heart and allow yourself to feel any remaining longing, not as need, but as architecture. Inhale through your heart. And as you inhale through your heart, inhale up and then exhale down your spine into your root. On your next inhale, inhale through your crown. And you can even gently hum if that feels aligned, if there's a tone with it for you. And as you inhale through your crown and just exhale down into your root, repeat silently, I no longer wait for devotion. I am the structure through which devotion moves. What I long for, I now embody. One more time, inhale through the crown and exhale through the root. I no longer wait for devotion. I am the structure through which devotion moves. What I long for, I now embody. Let your breath become steady. Let your field remember. You are not seeking, you are building. Take a deep breath, allow your eyes to open. You can revisit that anytime. If this conversation is opening something in you, here are 3 ways to step in further. soul blueprint readings or sacred wealth code readings if you're longing for that personal clarity to align with your soul's timings, your gifts, your purpose. These readings will reflect the codes already written in your chart. When we sit down for one of these sessions, it's not a predictive tool, it's a sacred mirror. And all the links for this and everything else are in the show notes. If this episode stirred recognition in you, an inner yes that feels structural, not emotional, you may already be part of the Sacred Wealth Mastery field. And this is where devotion becomes architecture. The invitation is also in the show notes. Once a month on the full moon, I hold a full moon coherence circle every month. And if you're feeling the resonance of this conversation and you want to walk in deeper coherence, you're invited to the next full moon circle. It's not a ritual or a healing. It's a consecrated space for refinement, a living transmission field where structure, rhythm, and remembrance come alive. I really appreciate you subscribing, following, and sharing this podcast with someone who might need it today. If you're on Apple Podcasts, leave me a review. If you're on Spotify or YouTube, please leave me a comment. I read them all. I thank you so much for being here. And remember, your soul already carries the blueprint for your wealth, your purpose. And when you live in alignment with that truth, the right people, opportunities, and resources arrive without force, in perfect timing, in perfect sequence. And so much love to you.